Hey, what's going on YouTube? It's GeneralTarheel, your coach of the Charizards, bringing you the APA Season 3 Week 5 battle versus Coach Curt the Buzzwole and the Adelaide Absols. Coming to Week 5, we did pick up a win last week in Week 4 against Coach Mewtwo fan Nate and the New York Noibats. Picked up a very nice 6-0. Make sure to check that out if you haven't yet. And as for Week 5, we are taking on Curt. Curt is unfortunately 0-4. Hopefully he can come back at one point, or maybe even this game. Hopefully not, though, because we do want to continue our undefeated streak. But he has a pretty solid roster. It more so fits his needs. But you can also see my opinion on the roster, as well as the team build that I brought for this week and the Pokemon why I'm bringing them. Make sure to do so, because I'm just going to give a brief description right now in case you haven't. I do have a kind of an offensive Lando T with Hidden Ice, Earthquake, Fly, and Defog, just to get rid of any annoying hazards. I do have a defensively bulky Toxapex with some Speed F, with Block, Scald, Toxic Spikes, and Recover, holding the Black Sludge, Regenerate ability, of course. I have a Cobalion, speedy offensive kinda, with Stealth Rock's Shuckaberry, Stealth Rock Iron at Close Combat Taunt, a Sylvest Electros with knockoff Flamethrower Volt Switch Dragon Pulse, and Setup Greninja with Substitute Workup and Mono Dark Pulse. And then I have, lastly, our mascot Mega Charizard X with Dragon Dance, Roost, Dragon Tail, Furblitz, being more of a bulky setup Dragon Dance Mega Charizard. So after going over the team and seeing what he brought, as he did bring Mesprit, Magnezone, Gliscor, Mega Gardevoir, Vaporeon, and Kyurem Black, I was a little bit surprised to not see Shuckle or Entei. I was really happy to not see Entei, because in the team build you did see where I was afraid that Entei got Stomping Tantrum, and the fact is it did. If there's still a chance he would have brought Bulldoze just for Mega Charizard X to lower its speed after Dragon Dance, if he did decide to bring it. But I was so happy not to see Entei, because that did put in a lot of work for my team. It was definitely going to be a problem. Mesprit was a little bit interesting. I wasn't so sure about that. Maybe it was just to bring Stealth Rocks along with Gliscor, so Gliscor could have more moves in order to take on my team. Just like Earthquake, Ice Fang, Roast, Defog, stuff like that. And a Magnezone, I felt like was a possibility. That's the main reason I need to bring Eel over Piloswine. Because even though I didn't think it had the best matchup, it was still possible and it could be a nuisance. But since I have Electros, it's nothing much really to worry about. Gliscor plus Vaporeon, I knew it was going to be pretty hard to break during this game. Mega Guard's going to be a wall breaker versus my team, and not really hard. It's actually going to be impossible to work around. It's going to do a lot of damage or pick up a kill whenever it comes in. And Kyurem Black, I feel like I can deal with decently well, depending on what set it is. So as we were starting off this match, I just wanted to leave my Greninja and go ahead and start shenanigans. I stop either of his Stealth Rock leads in Mesprit or Gliscor, so I'm going to go ahead and start the battle, as I do want to lead off with my Greninja. So the whole point of this Greninja is basically just to set up a sub, taunt the Vaporeon so it can't roar me out, and get up free workups and just spam Dark Pulse versus his team. I felt like it was going to be a very good option for this game. So as I lead Greninja here, he does opt to lead with his Miticus, which is his Mesprit. And right here, I'm just going to go for the substitute, just in case he does probably, well, he should probably switch out, as he just opts to go for the U-turn, which I found interesting. I wondered why he stayed in right there versus a Greninja. So I was like, okay, that's fine. So he's just going to go ahead and U-turn out, and he's going to get momentum out of this, which is perfectly fine. He's going to go right here into Magnezone. This is kind of telling me it's either AV or Scarf. I don't really expect it to come in here. I mean, sure, it could still come in if it is Specs and whatnot, but more so expecting that form of set. Right here, 1,000,000%, I'm going into my Electros. Not going to risk him going for Hidden Ice off the bat, because I know Curt tries to like make predictions immediately, but it does make a decent neutral play and just opt to go for Flash Cannon, as it will get damage off on either Pokemon that want to switch in. But this does give me momentum versus his team, since I am free to technically click Volt Switch, but I am going to opt to click Knockoff in case he wants to go Gliscor, and I can get rid of its Toxic Orb, so this way he can't have Poison Heal. But he will opt to go into his Kyurem Black as I go for the Knockoff, and this does show that his Kyurem Black is Z move. So I know for a fact it's probably Electrium Z in order to hit my Toxapex and Togekiss. But right here, 1,000,000%, I'm just going to go right into my Toxapex, and no reason not to. He just opts to go for the Ice Beam. I am perfectly fine with this. Toxapex is going to eat it up. And right here, believe I'm going to go right to my Landers. I haven't watched this replay since the battle, because it's actually a pretty decent long one, so I didn't really want to go through that again. So as he makes a switch out into his Vaporeon, I did opt to switch out into my Landers, which is perfectly fine, because I can just U-turn out. Oh, I don't have U-turn. Unfortunately, that's one thing I wasn't happy about this prep, is I didn't have U-turn Lando. I really like that in the momentum. it's kind of rough not having it. So I'm just going to hard switch into my Greninja because it's a perfectly fine switch in, as he's even going to switch out his Vaporeon. He's going to go into his Gardevoir. My Gren gets some lefties, gets some health recovery right here. Now, I 1,000,000% know he's going to Scout Gunk Shot. If he's dumb if he doesn't. It's just that simple, because otherwise he would just lose his Mega Guard, which is ridiculous versus me. So he will just go into Magnezone here, which I predicted correctly, and I'm just going to go for a Dark Pulse, getting off a lot of damage versus this thing, showing it's definitely not AV, so it's either a Spec Set or something else of the sort. So right here, I'm just going to opt to switch out, and this time I'm going to go into my Landorus on his Volt Switch, and if he does not go for another move afterwards, I know 1,000,000% that he's definitely choiced, as he will just opt to go for the Volt Switch. This does make me believe that he is Scarf. Sure, he lived another Dark Pulse, but he wouldn't have lived a Hydro Pump if I did have it, so that makes me believe he was Scarf trying to outspeed my Gren, but my Gren does outspeed Scarf Magnezone. Right here I go for Hidden Bar Ice, because 1,000,000% his switch in should be Gliscor if he prepped with Ice Fang. At the time I didn't think that he might not have Ice Fang at this point, but I really should have thought of that. So he makes the switch into Vaporeon, which I guess is still fair, but personally I would have kept my Vaporeon healthy for a the Mega Charizard X in the back. So I will just opt to go into Greninja here once again, as he just goes for a Scald. He will not pick up the Scald Burn, but Gren just eats that, of course, because we made it to where it will always do under 25%. So as we get some lefties here, I'm just going to opt to go for, I believe I went for the Taunt here. Yes, I did opt to go for the Taunt in case you want to roar me out immediately, or go for like a Wish or something. Like if you wanted to Wish into Magnezone and stuff like that, that's what I was kind of predicting. But as he just opts to go into the mess right here, I'm really just going to click Dark Pulse. I don't see a reason why I shouldn't. And this shows he's like an AV Mesprit. I mean, it works against Alakazam and Greninja, but Greninja still has the Dark type coverage for it, which is interesting. He will just decide to U-turn out here. He gets a lot of damage off against my Greninja. He goes right back into guard. I'm still surprised he did this, because Magnezone's still free to go into. He was still risking me having Gunk Shot. I'm staying in, because there's no way he's still risking it. Like, I still have moves that I'm not showing. So I'm just going to stay in. I'm going to click Dark Pulse. Vaporeon comes right back in here. Eats the Dark Pulse pretty well and whatnot, so I'm like, okay. So this is where I can start pulling shenanigans against this Vaporeon. I can go for a sub here and work around it from here on out. It should go for a Scald versus me here, and I really don't want to switch into that with anything else, so I'm just going to opt to go for a Substitute. It won't break my Substitute, and then I can just deal with it from there on out. Fortunately, I really let my Greninja get way too low, but I mean, I wasn't supposed to expect that Mesprit set, so... As I will just go for the Substitute, like I mentioned, gets the Scald. We both get lefties recovery. This is a very long battle, simply because a lot of Pokemon in this game have leftovers, or they have Poison Heal like Gliscor. So, as I go for the Dark Pulse, I didn't really want to taunt or anything like that, because I just felt like he was going to go for the double Scald. It had really no reason not to. But I was also kind of predicting like a Magnezone switch in, because I mean, like, Greninja's just gonna be able to get a lot of damage off your Vaporeon. I could taunt you to where you get really low on health from Dark Pulse and you're not capable of wishing up. And then Charizard could sweep you at this point, because ideally his team has no counter to a +1 Mega Charizard X, unless it's like Gliscor at full health, which is a really interesting bring on his part. So I'm just gonna go for the work up here, as he does just opt to go for the Scald. I really wasn't expecting him to stay in here. Expecting either a Roar, which I'd be okay with, or for him to go into Magnezone on switch into sub and whatnot. We just opts for another Scald, doesn't get the burns. We are capable of getting off one more Dark Pulse, and get off a lot of damage versus Vaporeon. We do not get the flinch, which is perfectly fine. It wouldn't have been fair considering he hasn't even gotten a Scald burn yet, but he'll take out my Greninja with another Scald. So really wondering why he let his Vaporeon get that weak, but at the same time I'm not going to complain about it completely. So I'm just going to go into my Electros here, as this is a free Volt Switch out if I wanted to. But right here I'm just going to... I don't agree with my play right here, because it's one of those things where it's like, it's obvious. Always go for the play you want to twice. I go for knockoff, expecting the switch in and whatnot. But right here I'll go for the Volt Switch, and as he withdrew, I'm like, that man went into Gliscor and he's going to get his Toxic Orb now. But he didn't, luckily. He just opted to go into Magnezone. So I was perfectly fine with this, so I'm just going to Volt Switch out right here. And Magnezone, it does just get out the way. And I'm just going to go right into Landorus. I'm not Scarf, I know, but he could go for Hidden Bar Ice here, which I'm perfectly fine with. I do live 1 from a Scarf variant, so I'm not really too worried about it. But at the same time, I am going to scout it. So I'm going to go right into my Charizard and any possible switch right here. As he goes for the Flash Cannon, and unfortunately he gets a, is it a crit? Yeah, he does get a critical hit right here. Now that will come to play in the next turn. Right here, I made a misplay. I went for the raw Dragon Dance when I knew Gliscor. By letting his Vaporeon take that much damage, he must have been a defensive Gliscor. I should have known it at the time. It's like, at this point, I was just kind of dragging on the plays, and I'm just like, not really thinking completely, because I wasn't sure what he was bringing and why he brought it. So I just opted to go for the Dragon Dance. Now, since he got a crit on with the Flash Cannon with Magnezone, this basically made it to where I couldn't go for a second D-Dance and just destroy this Gliscor. I would 1,000,000% have done that, just to be able to get rid of this Gliscor, because then Cobalion basically just wins. But, since he did get the crit, I cannot get another Dragon Dance off versus an Earthquake from this Gliscor. So I'm just going to go right into Landorus. He does know I have the Hidden Power Ice, so I am predicting him to switch here, but I'm still going to click it just in case, because if he does have the Ice Fang, he might just opt to click it and get damage off of my Lando. And if he does go into Vaporeon, I can still kill that afterwards. He does opt to go into the Mesprit. Right here, I kind of busted the Z-move a little bit early in my opinion. I just really didn't want this Mesprit to go for another U-turn and get off more momentum. My switch-in also wasn't too existent. Mainly because, of course, if I go Tox Specs on the incoming possible Ice Beam that it has for Landorus, then I'm just going to take a Psychic afterwards. If I go into Charizard, it's going to be neutral Ice Beam damage and I risk getting frozen. Flare Blitz will take me out of that, but still. Greninja's gone. I'd rather keep Electros healthy for his Mega Guard and Magnezone. But right here, he goes into Magnezone. I'm tired of this thing being like annoying with my team, and I was kind of expecting to go for a Volt Switch here. Expecting me to switch out, so I was just going to stay in and click Earthquake. Once again, I do live a Choice Scarf Hidden Power Ice no matter what, so I'm just going to stay in, click Earthquake, and Landorus does take out the Mesprit and the Magnezone. So we are sitting at a 5-4 game right now, as he will just go into his Mega Gardevoir, and this is very threatening. I had to play around this pretty well, and I think I did. I'm going to go into Toxapex first, because easiest play 1,000,000%. Actually, that's wrong. He should never just click Hyper Voice here, unless it was deciding on the factor of kill on Landorus, because Greninja's gone. Psychic is free spam versus my team, considering my Steel type is Cobalion. Especially if it was Psyshock, it's just free versus my team. He two-shot everything, so. We're just going to get Black Sludge here on his incoming Hyper Voice, and I'm like, okay, he actually made that play, so this benefits me a little bit more. So I'm just going to switch right out here into my Cobalion on his possible incoming Psyshock, and I'm going to absolutely eat that. I was predicting Psyshock over Psychic because it does benefit him versus my team a lot more, especially for AV Electros and more of a Spadef Togekiss. So as he does switch out Gardevoir here on the Cobalion, which he should, I will just opt to get up my Stealth Rocks this turn, I believe, which I do, in order to get more damage on that Kieran Black on switching, and hopefully just get chips on a little bit annoying things that are basically just screw me over near the end. Right here versus Vaporeon, I'm just going to opt to go for the taunt, make sure it can't get up another Wish, as his Vaporeon does just opt to go for the Scald. Don't understand his reasoning behind that when he wants his Vaporeon healthy. I guess he doesn't. So he will just get more leftovers recovery, and that's perfectly fine. I have to switch out Cobalion because this is my main check to guard and Kieran Black being Revenge. Since I know Kieran Black isn't Scarf, Cobalion always comes in on those two. And I'm just going to go into Electros right here on the incoming Scald. Hopefully I don't get burned, but at the same time it's not going to hinder me too much, considering knockoffs more so just as utility. So as he will withdraw his Vaporeon here, he will go into Gardevoir on my incoming Volt Switch. Now right here I made a questionable play, and this is actually a big part of the game, which I think I'm going to pause here and I'm actually going to talk about it. So right here, instead of going into Cobalion, I went into Mega Charizard X, and I'll pause right here. So my reasoning behind going into Charizard is dumb reasoning. It was absolutely stupid. Basically I was getting really impatient with this game. I wasn't reading Curt correctly. I didn't see his plays as ones that would benefit him, and but I didn't really know his team at the same time. Like, I was trying to base it off the prep that I expected him to bring, which you shouldn't always do in battles because it gets you in situations like this. And I was getting really tired of just how long this game was kind of getting at this point. Even though it wasn't too long, I was kind of in a rush and whatnot. So I was trying to get KyleAye to, well, I didn't want to bring KyleAye in, because it just would have been the same thing. And even though I would have been able to probably get chip on one of his possible switch-ins, at the same time I don't want to risk it. Because if I go for Iron Head on the Gliscor switch-in, hey, that's pretty good. I'm getting some damage off, but he can still roost it off, so it doesn't really matter. And then if I get the close combat correct on the Vaporeon, cool, he can probably switch in the Gliscor right after, and then it doesn't matter, because I'm forced to switch out. So it's like, I really wish I brought Volt Switch like on KyleAye or something like that, because it's really hurting me at this point, in my opinion. So I decided to go Charizard, even though this is my win con, and if I D-Dance up on the Vaporeon or something, I'm in a really good spot. I was hoping he wasn't going to risk the potential speed tie. As if you remember my team builder, it is a 1,000,000% a fact my Charizard is going to be slower than this Mega Guard. He has no reason to be bulky Mega Gardevoir. I know Curt, he would risk a speed tie 1,000,000%. And I just didn't think he would risk it right here. I didn't really see it happening. I thought he would go into Gliscor because I figured Gliscor would be max defense based off his team build. I know he normally goes like max stuff. So I was hoping that he would go Gliscor here on my Flare Blitz, and it would still be a potential 2-shot. I just think he would just do it out of clicking. But as I just go in the Charizard here, and I'm going to click Flare Blitz hoping to get up a kill, of course he just stays in with Mega Gardevoir and just clicks Hyper Voice. I just don't really agree with that because he risked a potential speed tie. His Gardevoir picked up a kill every time and it forced KyleAye on it every time. And KyleAye just doesn't deal with the walls like I was mentioning. So that's why I wasn't predicting him to do that. I was kind of hoping to capitalize on that play and make it work around, but it was still not safe in my opinion considering Charizard was my win con. But I really I don't understand it. I can't get behind him for that play either. So as I will just go for the Iron Head, we actually get a lot of damage off on this Gliscor, and I believe at one point I'm just going to have to try and flinch down this Gliscor. I don't really know what else I'm going to be able to do, because it's just so annoying. I didn't realize how annoying it was when I used it last season in APA, but just Poison Hail is just a ridiculous ability, and having access to Roost. But he's going to make a double here, smart on his part. He will go into Vaporeon, basically right here. This is where it would have been nice to have my Fly Z, because I'm just going to click Earthquake. This basically puts in a 2-shot range, but now he's completely free to go for Wish Protect, because no matter what, my Landorus cannot stop him from doing that unless I got a crit EQ right here. So as he goes for the Wish, he can freely go for the Protect next turn, because once again, do not have the Fly Z anymore. If I had the Z move right there, it would have broke through his Protect and I would have killed Vaporeon right here, and my team would have been sitting so much better than where it is right now. But basically, after I lost Charizard, I was so frustrated that I'm just keeping Landorus T here, and I'm just going to try to end the game. I don't think I can win at this point. I really don't expect myself being capable of winning, unless he just chokes massively somehow. I need to get Iron Head flinches with KyleAye and Gliscor and stuff like that, and it just would be a very solid win at that point. So I'm just trying to end this game at this point, seeing if Landorus can at least cheese a kill with like a crit on Vaporeon or something like that. As he does just opt to go for the Scald, I miscalced right here. I looked at the min and I thought it was max on the calc, but it still didn't matter. I was basically treating Landorus as a sack anyways, like I already mentioned. Magnezone's gone, so I didn't really need it too much anymore. But basically, I lost Greninja and I lost Lando. Lost my main ways of killing Gliscor because I decided to take HP Ice of this Electros. If I kept that, that would have been a little bit better for me in this situation, but at this point in time, I cannot win this game. It's just a fact. He would have to choke like crazy in order to lose this game, and I really don't expect that to happen. He will just switch out right here. He's going to go into Gardevoir. I don't know why he wouldn't just go into Gliscor, but I would find out later why he didn't go into Gliscor. As I will just opt to go for the Volt Switch, taking this guard down pretty well. I'm just going to go right into my KyleAye, and at this point I am just going to try to pull off the Iron Head shenanigans. If Vaporeon does want to come in, Stealth Rocks into Iron Head after lefties. I believe Close Combat is a roll to pick it off. I mean, he could just Protect to make sure he's out of it, which he probably would, but felt like I lost nothing. Right here, I'm just going to go for the Iron Head flinches versus this Gliscor. Once again, I really feel like it is my only play. As I go for an Iron Head right here, we don't pick it up, and he just decides to go for the Roost. I'm just going to stay in, I'm just going to do it. There's really no reason for me not to. It's my only win con in order to kill this wall. It's ridiculous. I didn't really prep up too much to take it down. I actually don't go for the flinches right here, but I do soon enough. In hindsight, I should have just brought a completely offensive Greninja, because that would have been able to deal with his team a lot. And he shows the agility, and this confuses me because he's Roost, EQ, agility. I'm like, okay, he's either Facade or he's Baton Pass, and he shows the Baton Pass right here. I do have to go for the Dragon Pulse, and by the way, Dragon Pulse is a kind of a misprep. It should have been Flash Cannon to hit both Mega Guard and Kieran Black. I do go for the Dragon Pulse. We do catch the Kieran Black on switching. So we catch his cheese right there, but still, like, we can take this down very low into the red. He can go for an Earth Power right here if he wants. We're gonna eat this since I do know he's Z. We're gonna take it even better than we would Life Orb. Electros just absolutely eats that, and 1v1's like Kieran Black. That's the only place we'll probably see it, even though we do eat 2 Life Orb Earth Powers anyways. So we take down the Kieran Black there. I'm like, okay. So he brought a Gliscor that can't touch my Electros, and Mega Gardevoir is really low. Like, this is really close to dying to another Stealth Rock switching. So it's like, if I can get that to work, then I'm in a good spot. So I'm going to switch out into Toxapex here. It doesn't really help me at any point for the rest of this match. So I'm just going to make sure it goes down right here to the incoming Psyshock. And since he should have clicked that twice, he had absolutely no reason to click Hyper Voice there. If he would have done it again, well, it still wouldn't matter because it would have 2 KO Toxapex when Hyper Voice to Psyshock, but still. He goes for the 2 Psyshocks, Toxapex will go in on Mega Gardevoir. It's totally fine. I just need to be able to get Cobalion in. And right here, this is when it comes down to the Iron Head flinching. As we bring in Chief, he will just opt to switch out his Gardevoir. I was hoping he was going to die to Stealth Rock switch in because he doesn't have anything to touch my Electros, which is this Gliscor, so we're sitting at a good spot versus that. So I'm just going to keep going for my Iron Heads. Got a min roll there compared to like the first Iron Head I got off on Gliscor. So I'm just going to spam Iron Head, see how many flinches I can get. That's basically what it comes down to this. But when that stupid Pokemon's recovering 1/8 of its health with Poison Heal, it's like you can't even stop it. So I'm just going to go in for Iron Head, and I get the first flinch. Or I believe that was the first one. I'm going to go for Iron Head again. And we pick up the next flinch versus Gliscor. I was like, okay, I just need 2 more, and then I'm pretty sure I kill this thing. I'm going to go for Iron Head again. And he opts to go for Roost. Why would he go for Roost there when I have Taunt? He would risk me just being able to flinch him down. Like, if I just opted to go for a Taunt one of those turns, your Gliscor would have risked being more easily flinched down to Earthquake. He should have just clicked EQ there because it picks up a kill. There's no reason for him not to. Because if I switch onto my Electros, you're going to outspeed me and get off a Roost. So he just does opt to go for the EQ this time, which is good enough. Shucka Berry doesn't help us there. We were too weak. Totally fine. Once again, I could not win at this point, so it's whatever. So I was hoping he just would have killed me with EQ and I roosted it right there. But I'm just going to go into Electros. We know this Gliscor cannot touch me for some odd reason. Ice Fang would have helped him, of course, hit Landorus, since Ice Fang Gliscor is one of the best Lando counters you can find. And it would have let him hit Togekiss. And it would have let him at least hit Electros for neutral if he wanted to get some chip off. But we're just going to go for the knockoff here as we do knock off the Vaporeon. He just will opt to go for the Scald as Electros will just kill this Vaporeon with Volt Switch. And I'm like, okay, if his Mega's Guard goes down to rocks, then he's just going to Roostall me out for the rest of the timer, which is really fun. And it's going to be just a 0-0. But he will just opt to go into Guard, of course, and he does lift our Stealth Rock. So Gardevoir will just pick me off with Hyper Voice. And unfortunately, I will lose 2-0 to a team that hasn't picked up a win yet. Curt is a solid battler, though, so I'm not surprised it happened. But I say solid, but I do not agree with a lot of his plays in the battle, which I went over multiple times. I don't agree with his prep either. It turns out he did not even have Roar on Vaporeon versus a team with Mega Charizard X, and even Landorus T and Cobalion. I just don't agree with that. I mean, 1,000,000% this loss is on me. 1,000,000% losing Charizard was on me. I played this game poorly. I played Gren poorly as well, along with Charizard X. The loss is on me. It's because I was trying to predict my opponent in the wrong way than I should have. It's just, I found it interesting the way he prepped. I didn't really... It's not even that it benefited him necessarily. It's just that it confused me when it comes down to that. But I'm happy for Curt that he picked up a win. And it's just unfortunate that we had to end the losing streak. I kind of wanted to be undefeated when I face my boy Panther next week for week 6, but I'll get to that in a moment. So unfortunately, we do end the undefeated streak just like last year in APA Season 2. We were 4-0, and then we lost to our boy Polymac. So I guess it's just an APA curse to where we can't go undefeated for more than 4 weeks. So hopefully next season of APA that can at least change. But and of course, as soon as I pick up a win in P4G Next Gen, I get a loss here. So I guess that's how Arceus just wants to treat me. I'm just cursed. So as for this week, that'll be it for the APA. Next week, we'll be taking on Panther 2 and the Carolina Clefables, my fellow commissioner, a good friend. It will definitely be an interesting battle. I have not beat Panther, but I have also gotten quite better than the last few times we faced. I was pretty decent the last time we faced, but the man also had a Mega Lucario. So make sure to look forward to that battle. It will definitely be an interesting one for that, as we are moving into the other strong division. And make sure to check out my Pokemon Full like I already mentioned, if you haven't yet. That'll be it from me this week, guys. Make sure to sub, like, share, deuces.